Welcome back to the channel, Farm with Nick. Thanks so much for joining me here on a farm tour of a farm build I did on Alma, Missouri. So as you can see, I am just leaving the main starting farm right now. And let me jump into the map and show you where I placed this farm. So the main farm here is quite large and extensive. I actually placed my build closer to town at field 33 here. So it was field 33, and I'll buy that. And it's actually this cattle farm where I placed my farm on it. And I really like this farm, especially with the proximity to town. And I like how it's kind of a little more condensed. So let me kind of just drive out there. Point out a few things, and then I'll show you my build and what I did with the farm. So I kept some things the same. I actually added quite a bit, and then also kind of changed around the roads. So I want to point that out just so you're aware of what I did before I show you everything and reveal it. So if you've been playing on Alma, this is such cool ground texture. I love the ground texture. Very cool. All that dust that it's kicking up. Alright, so we are here already. So I did keep this as a cattle farm. I didn't change that. And then we'll pull up. So this is actually now, with the update to the map, this is actually your only entrance to the farm. And I kind of did away with that a little bit. If I jump to the build mode really quick, so you'll notice on this farm, you only have access here. You do have, access, but it's like through the fields, up that way to the right. And then you'll notice there's a very, very large cattle pasture. And then it loops in front of the house and back around to the main red barn. So I kind of took it back to where it was originally back in FS22, and that is based off of Google Maps as well, and what the original farm is. So the original farm, yes, has a road or a driveway coming up this way and connecting in. I am just not a fan of how this looks with the fence in front, and then the only access to the house is off to the side. And then there's also another drive that is very, very unique to this farm, and I actually put that back in, and you'll see it here in a second. It comes off of this and does a loop around and comes up this way, so it kind of loops down and around, kind of does like an S curve, and that is really, really neat, and that is actually in the original farm on Google Maps too. You can check it out for yourself if you just type in Alma, Missouri. And then the rest of this over here on the original map on Google is not there, but I kind of tweaked that and then added some buildings and some extra pens as well. So you'll notice that the farmhouse is still there. The main red barn, the main pole barn here is still there. And then this barn is gone. This little lean-to shed, the decorations are gone. And then this main milking barn is still there. So I kept that. However, I did tweak it a little bit, which I know you'll be interested in seeing. Okay, so I'm actually just going to loop around to the original front of the farm, which actually is going to be the main entrance again to mine. And once I show you that, I'll kind of tell you why I did what I did. And it's up to you if that's kind of what you want to do. And if you don't like it, that's okay too. I am okay with that. So I'll kind of run over here. Here is the main part, or the front of the farm. So I'm going to take it from this into this. So welcome to my farm build here on Alma, Missouri. So kind of step back. I had to move my pickup out of the way. I was building up traffic. But as you can see, and you'll notice right away, the most obvious thing off the bat is the opening road or driveway is back on my version. And that's just my preference. I spent quite a bit of time getting the angle and everything kind of set up correctly for that. But then you'll notice I have cows on the right and the left. So let's hop in the pickup, drive up to the house, and I'll kind of take you around. So if you're new to this channel and kind of finding me now, I'd love to have you kind of join along and see some of my other builds and see what I'm up to here on Alma now with this build. So as I come up, you can notice I have the same kind of curve. I tried my best as the previous version, FS22, and this drive also matches the one from the real farm. Alright, so I'll pull up here and I'll just hop out. So with the ground textures, like I said, it's really, really nice here on the Alma map. I matched this ground texture best I could up here for the opening drive, and I think it turned out really well. I actually matched that up here as well in the front of the house. And then kind of as I'm driving around the farm and continuing, you'll notice it, like the back going around to the patio. I'll just show you quick. I kept that the same, kind of looping around, all the same here. So nothing different, just a bunch of decorations to make it look a little more lived in. And then let's go around this way. So first, you'll notice I have some gates. I had my first cattle barn right here to the right, and this is for my heifers. And you can see manure pit there, tractor ready to go. There's the original red pole barn, didn't want to change that. And then a bunch of like supplies, equipment right here, ready to go. And then let's loop back this way so you can get through the cattle barn this way. And then there's another entrance, another gate to get in. And then you'll notice some bales already. So I replaced the decoration bales with real bales. And then my idea was to put that loop back in that I told you about in the beginning. And then I matched that back up to what it used to be. So you can see it kind of does that S-curve back around. And that was one of the things that really kind of brought me to this farm that was unique. That way you can kind of drive around, you have a nice little turnaround, and then you can drop your bales off, as you see that I did. I really kind of like that. So that curve is back in. You can go straight. There's a corn crib there. We'll come back to that. And then I have my main two silos right here. And yes, these are multi-fruit silos, but that's our main silo. And then it kind of wraps up back through here, and you can come right through the main entrance there of this barn. So I really like how that loop kind of turned out. And then let's go back around this way, and we'll talk about the roads in a little more detail here in a second. So I'll tell you how I did those as well. And then coming up here, you can see I changed out those barns. So we have the main one here still. I changed out that kind of metal hoop barn right there. And then I also, instead of the open shed, I changed it out here for another barn as well. And this has plenty of storage, plenty of height for equipment, whatever you want there, you're all set. So I kind of tucked that barn in. If you're on council and looking to recreate this farm for yourself, this pillar right here, I tucked it right in inside those tracks. So that's kind of like a nice little marker for you. And then I did leave this oak tree here from the original farm. So it's kind of growing into our roof line there, which is okay. But you can kind of line that up as well. So just some thinking for you. Now in this barn, I don't really have anything, just the bale trailer, but it is just massive. So plenty of room in there for equipment and storage. And then up here, I replaced that other barn as well. And you have a nice high loft barn in here. And same thing, plenty of room in here for equipment, your combines. Probably won't run out of space in there. Let's run over here before we get to the other cow barn. So I switched around kind of the backyard. You'll notice I opened it up, took out a lot of trees. Have a little volleyball net in, little gazebo area, and then you can see the cattle are right up here, like the original build. And then that comes up to the patio. And then kind of going back here, I put another small garage in, and you might be wondering why. And I felt like, well, kind of tucks in nicely to the backyard, but also, you know, you have your little camper here. Maybe you would have other supplies in here, and then you could also, you know, use this for like your side-by-side, bikes, you know, keep like your other toys back here. And one neat, cool thing I'm going to show you. Here is my steel chainsaw. Look at that. So you can actually place, and you can see you can put sprays down and like a little brush for your horses there. But you can actually place equipment in this little garage. So how cool is that? So I definitely wanted to put that in the build. And I love that you can place your chainsaw. And now if I try to go get my chainsaw, it's only a flashlight. So just another level of realism I was really impressed with. So that's why that little extra garage got put in. Alright, and let's loop it back around this way. So I have some seeds underneath that barn. You'll notice I have a nice corn crib here ready to go. And then let's turn back around, just driving the grass here. Then up here I have a fermenting silo ready to make TMR. I think it also does pig feed, but it's a large one. And I kind of put that alongside this main red barn. Now this main red barn is also a dairy barn. I did swap it out, and you couldn't just delete the white fence for the build. You had to actually change it out. So you can see I have a mixing wagon in there for the cattle, but this is a dairy barn. So it kind of loops around this way here, and then in a second I'll show you the fence line and how far I went out. But then that's about it. I didn't go further into the build there, but that kind of just loops around. And let me show you another feature I put in. So we have that fermenting silo, but then in here I was able to tuck in a little calf barn. So in here I have some little calves, you can see them in there, and then I have a water tower, and then some little calf huts here, and then this really just loops around. And my intent was to use obviously small equipment, but this loops around. There's our main cattle pasture there for the red barn, and this just is tucked in nicely and loops back out. So you can have your 3 stages here. So my main dairy operation is behind me right there. You have your calf barn right there, and then like I said, you have your heifer barn right here. So I think that works quite nicely. I'm really happy with the layout and the setup. Yes, it took many hours and many rebuilds just trying to get that to where I was comfortable and showing you and, you know, what I liked. So let me give you an overview. So once again, the field, I think it's field 33, and you get this area here. Now, I did end up purchasing these surrounding fields, and I did end up purchasing the town. And the reason to purchase town was when I replaced the fence line here, I went out further. You can see almost all the way to this field. I left those 3 trees out, so if you wanted to expand into here, there's still plenty of room. But then I wanted my fence line to go all the way up to this road, and then I want it to go all the way up to this tree line. And to do that, I had to purchase the land around town. But then I think it looks really neat because look at, I put in some dirt patches. This is where the cattle are want to come and lay in the hot summer months, all right, if they can't get into the barn. And then same thing, they'll kind of follow the shade of these trees, and same thing, kind of getting out of the sun in the hot summer months. But it looks really neat. And then you know how they kind of follow the edge of the tree line there. So I did that, and then really just kind of tucked it up kind of from this patch here in the road, and then making a straight line to the house, kind of making an L shape, and then just back up. So pretty simple, but in the simplicity, there was a lot of thought that went into it. It wasn't just done overnight, like I said. And then just to show you the pasture for the other one, so here's our heifer, and then this one just goes straight out, and then I kind of wanted to keep it out of the ditch best I could. And then same thing with this one, follows along, and then I want it on the opposite side of that tree. And then this, I really put in after I put in that drive. So once I got the drive in, then I could easily put in the fence line, and then kind of loops up around here to the front again. So there's that. And then, like I said, you can see that S-curve here to loop back around that I placed in. The rest of these drives I wanted to keep. The texture that was already here, I tried to match it best I could. So this texture in here with that concrete, and it's like the darker texture, I actually added that in here, and then kept in that little white gravel grass texture. So everything matches to what was done by the original build by the map maker. And then just to kind of show you, before I go through the buildings fast, I don't want to forget, I want to show you how I kind of did these roads, because you might be wondering that as well. And if you're not, I guess scan forward a little bit. So I did place some of these textures down, but it's in here in the gravel roads. So if you've ever placed these down before, I use these to kind of get my curve and my placement coming around and then looping up. And then I did that with this as well. And then I actually placed these roads down here as well. So coming off of here, I placed like a straightaway. You can kind of see how it fit in. And then I placed a couple of curves, and then just kept curving it, and then looped it, and then curved it, and then put it straight. Then, once this gravel road was in, I went through and deleted it. Then I was left with just the texture from the gravel road, and then I went into the painting, and this is where it took some time and some finesse. But then here is the gravel texture right there. And then with that gravel texture, and I know you can only do square, but then I went through and then painted that texture. So you can see a little bit of brown in there still. That's from the gravel road, but it gives it some nice texture and character. But then I went through and then painted that gravel in there. And that really ties in nicely with the original that is here. And then it's not too bad, unless you're like right on it and looking at it, it's not too bad and looks and ties right into the farm. So that's how I actually did that. So I built it with the road, deleted the road, and then placed in the gravel. And then sometimes I had to come back through and do retouches. Yes, it took quite a while to get all that in, but it looks really great. Now, another thing you might be wondering, why in the world did I add in that driveway again? And I think, and don't quote me on this, but I think the mod maker took that out because there were some issues with the AI when you would send them down from a field here. Instead of like coming down here to the main road and then looping down into town, they were actually cutting through this farm and then cutting through here. And sometimes, and it happened to me on FS22, they would get stuck in here. So actually, I decided to put that road back in because, if you know, these are buildable roads. And if you've ever played with buildable roads, the AI worker, more often than not, does actually get triggered and goes on the buildable roads. So with that being said, I don't know if this is true, but if that does work that way, that means when you have a worker come through here, they would actually get stopped right here, and they would be stuck there. And then you have that white fence that's looping in front of your house. Well, I thought, well, would you want it to be stopped there, and then you have to come through and turn your worker around, get them out of this farm, then to go down? Or are they going to skip this road? I don't know, maybe. But if they still go down this buildable road, chances are they're going to stop right here, which is perfect because guess what? All I have to do is jump in, hire a new worker once I get them here, and they can be on their way again. So I felt like, well, I'd rather have it just open. If the AI worker is going to get stuck right there, they're going to get stuck, and then they can still get out because I built the road there. And they should not go down this road. So if you were sending a worker through town and you wanted them to loop around to a field back there, chances are they're not going to go this way now because they do not go on just like a regular painted road. They will go on the buildable road. So I don't know if they would loop up this way. If they were going down out east this way, chances are no. But if they were coming into town, I feel like that's where you're going to have the issue. But I decided to open it up to make it back to the original build, and then I love that original turnaround, so absolutely I wanted to put it back. So I hope you like that aspect. And yes, this long spiel is just because I spent a lot of time on it trying to get it to where I was comfortable and wanted to show you guys. So here's the next thing. So this is the original farm house that is there. I did not change anything. I added a bunch of decorations, and then kind of looping back here, this is the original pole barn to the build, and left that. Everything is the same. Here's the first one that I added. It's the cattle stable red, and I'm using that as my heifer barn, and you have this nice big pasture for them. And I added all the little textures, extra gates, little waters, all that. And then looping back over here, I added this. It's the old barn with carport. So I really like how that was placed in there quite nicely. You could turn the doors coming out this way, but I decided to keep them facing that direction. And then here I have, let's see if it gives it to me. There it is. It's a multi-fruit silo, the double silo. So it holds quite a bit, actually. I don't know if you'll run out of room or not. And then looping back over here, I have another barn. This is just called Old Barn. It's actually from the same set as this barn. So if you're looking for it, it's the same one. And both of these two barns, they come out white, but then I had it painted red. And then next, this is called Garage. And it's actually with a set, if you're looking for it, of farmhouses. So it just came out. There's a set of farmhouses, and it gives you a set of garages with them as well. So I just added the garage here, and I think it ties in nicely with the main house. So I know it's a lot of red buildings, but I wanted to keep with that theme. And then looping back over here, I have a water tower, as you can see. And then here's our calf barn here. It's just called Cow Barn, and there's a set of 3 of them. This is the one without a pasture, but you could put one with pasture, and then there's another one that's a little bit bigger. But for my use, I just wanted the barn. And then over here is a fermenting silo, and there's a smaller size, but I wanted the same as the other 2 over there, just for the height. So I could use that for chaff and making TMR. And then over here is the last one. This is the US Cow Barn with milk. So this is actually a mod, and you can see the fence is not that white fence. So don't be mistaken, this is not the original barn here for the build. This was a modded barn of it, even though it looks identical. But then that fence line, like I said, I changed it all around and then looped it out quite far and got all those tree line, or both tree lines, to be inside, which that's what I wanted to do. And then that kind of loops up by the house and then back around, just L curve, and then back up to there. So there it is, my farm build here on Alma, Missouri. So thank you so much for joining me. I'm really, really happy with how it turned out. I hope you are enjoying this tour here as well. I know I went into a little more detail, and I could always show you, and maybe in a separate video, of how I did the roads instead of just kind of explaining it, but that's what it is, kind of in a nutshell there. Nothing too crazy, even though like it takes a while to add all those little finishing touches and to make it fit where it doesn't kind of just stick out. Like it took me a while to do that, so I hope you enjoy that. And then, like I said, adding this extra little detail around the farm, the decorations, if you kind of noticed it as I was driving around and flying around, a lot of little things kind of went in here and there. For example, over here, there's like a little spot for seeds. Here's a little workstation there. Kind of forward, looking ahead, you can see a little wash station for equipment. Another station here for fertilizer, and then kind of looping back around, the main part for everything on the farm, if you want to get supplies instead of going to the store, is right here to my left, or our left, is all like the different filling stations, fuel, and then there's even a little buying station right there in that shed, and that's everything that you need right there in that buying station. And another seed station there. So a little bit of everything on this, and this farm is ready to go and ready to be worked on and starting to work as a dairy operation. So thank you again for joining me here on this build. Like I said, if you're new to the channel, I'd love to have you tag along and join the Farming with Nick community. Leave a comment below, let me know what you think, leave a like button, and thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it, and have a good one. Take care.